been 4 days since Statistics Canada reported that Canada is the only G7 country in a recession, and the Prime Minister has not answered one question, not in this House, not from the media, not from anyone. The guy who said you hire him in a crisis, well, now he's made a crisis.
News broke on Friday that Canada has hit a recession. Not a technical recession, an actual recession, according to the measuring stick. Now, what's interesting is that Canada is the only G7 country that is in a recession. It is the only country that has a former governor of the Bank of Canada and a former governor of the Bank of England as its prime minister. And yet, we are still in a recession. So, what has Mark Carney's response been to this devastating news? Absolutely nothing. Let's take a look.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
The group of 7 industrialized nations, they all face tariffs and global economic forces, but Japan is not in recession. The United States is not in recession. The United Kingdom is not in recession. France is not in recession. Germany is not in recession. Italy is not in recession. The only G7 country in recession is Canada. Why is it that Canada, under this Liberal Prime Minister, is the only G7 country in a recession today?
Honourable Minister of Energy and Natural Resources.
Mr. Speaker, the honourable member should do his economic homework. He should understand that Canada is the most integrated country in the world with the United States. They have declared a trade war on us. This side of the House understands that. We will control what we can control. That's why we're building new mines at Red Chris. That's why we're building new pipelines on Sunrise. That's why we're building 4 new mines in Saskatchewan, a uranium mine, a potash mine, and a copper mine. They should start to understand economics and try to help build this country instead of tear it down.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Wait a minute. These are the same guys that when called out on the fact that they weren't getting a deal with Donald Trump to deal with the tariffs, these are the same guys, and this is the same Prime Minister who said this.
We have the best deal in the world. We're in the process of making it better for the workers in the steel sector, for the workers in the aluminum sector.
So which is it, Liberals? We either have the best deal in the world, so therefore we should be the least affected by this. This is what they want us to believe. Or because we're so integrated with the United States, that we're the most affected. Which is it? You can't have it both ways. Either the recession is caused as a result of our situation with the United States, which you have refused to deal with, which you've refused to go down to Washington, you've refused to talk to Donald Trump. The only thing that you have said is who cares when you're asked about why you haven't talked about it.
Who cares? I mean, it's a detail. It's a detail. I spoke to him. I'll speak to him again when it matters. I don't have a burning issue to speak with the president about right now.
Or the recession is caused as a result of you not getting a deal. And as a result of 10 years of terrible policy, 6 of which has been advised by the current Prime Minister to Justin Trudeau. So which is it? You can't have it both ways. This is the problem with making excuses for this type of thing. You end up eventually talking yourself into a corner and saying both things at the same time. Well, you can't have it both ways. You got to pick an excuse here, folks. And either way you go, it doesn't look good for you.
Mexico shares a border with the United States and is as integrated with the U.S. as we are. And Mexico is not in a recession. Only Canada, in all of North America, only Canada is in recession. Not only that, Since this Liberal Prime Minister took office, he's lost 46,000 jobs, 112,000 in the last 3 months alone. We have the second highest unemployment in the G7, a third higher than the U.S. The economy has contracted 3 of the last 4 quarters. Over $20 billion of net investment has fled the country. 5 consecutive quarters of investment dropping. Mortgage delinquencies up a third, a 17-year high. Why are we the only country in a recession?
The Honourable Minister of National Defence.
Mr. Speaker, the Leader of the Opposition should take note of some of the facts. For example, 3,500 jobs annually being created with our Joint Support Ships contract, 2,300 jobs to produce our AOP ships, 1,800 jobs for our fixed-wing search and rescue, 700 jobs for our remotely piloted aircraft system, 5,300 direct jobs for our River-class destroyers, Mr. Speaker. The list is very long. The Leader of the Opposition should stop running down Canada and join us in our efforts.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
It's the Liberal Prime Minister that's running down our economy and then running away from accountability for it. Where is he anyway? We've known now it's been 4 days since Statistics Canada reported that Canada is the only G7 country in a recession, and the Prime Minister has not answered one question, not in this House, not from the media, not from anyone. The guy who said you hire him in a crisis, well, now he's made a crisis. He's created the only G7 economy that's in a recession. Instead of running away from accountability, why doesn't he run in here and do his job?
Well, Pierre's absolutely right, folks. Where is Mark Carney? Why isn't he answering questions? This is supposed to be his area of specialty, but he's nowhere to be found. So, this is where we are. We're supposedly in the embrace of the governor, former governor of the Bank of Canada, former governor of the Bank of England, and Mr. Brookfield, Mr. Economist, and this is where we are. Mark Carney says he joined and became the leader of Canada in order to serve in a time of crisis. And that's interesting that Pierre actually brought this up. And as soon as I heard that, I thought back to where we interviewed Desiree Fixler before the actual federal election, just to give everybody a reminder of what she said was coming. This is a segment of that interview.
It is, that's why I, posted what I did is because, I have inside insights. And right now, U.S. tariffs, that is just not Canada's crisis. Electing Carney will be. He is not telling the truth about the affordability crisis. He's not telling the truth about the climate hoax. And he will shrink the economy. And again, I just point to Germany. Look what the Green Deal has done to Germany, this Davos agenda. And just think about your own freedoms, right? Freedom of speech, freedom to decide, what you want to drive, how you want to heat your house, being able, to work and earn a decent standard of living. And Mark Carney and these Davos elites, and again, I also consider most of the leaders in Europe and the current administration in the UK, they're all the same. They all have the same agenda. And you can just look at, there's plenty of economic data to show that this leads to less productivity, lower GDP per capita. It leads to less innovation, less research and development spend, right? Less of a startup culture. And then very scarily, it leads to limits. It is all connected to limits on free speech, on the ability to debate, the ability to disagree, dissent, to protest. Look at Carney's op-ed, in response to the truckers' rebellion, right? I mean, calling that sedition and debanking people, right? He will promote a central bank digital currency. That is extremely scary. The government has full control on your life and can spit you right out of society. So, I would say first and foremost, for democratic values, do not vote for him if you have any, value on democracy, but also, for economic prosperity. This guy is just like a natural resource thief. I think it's disgusting not to. Canada is such a rich, is so natural resource rich. Even if, let's say, in the future, climate change does become a big problem, you need economic growth and prosperity to address it. You can't have a shrinking economy. You can't address problems when the lights go out, And, so that I felt, strongly, because I have these World Economic Forum insights, and I've traveled with Carney's circle. I'm still in their circle. I still am the contrarian voice in the room. I thought it was important because I could just see another crisis. His brand is crisis. Carney's brand is crisis, and he's manufacturing the one, and that's duplicitous. It's not right.
Very eerie to hear that now, right after our economy has contracted. Just about everything she said has come to fruition. And this is somebody who traveled in Mark Carney circles. She was drinking the Kool-Aid at one point with all this ESG stuff, with this GFANT stuff. And then she blew the whistle. She blew the whistle, and a bunch of people were arrested, fined tens of millions of dollars. It was crazy. But this is what we're dealing with now. GDP per capita falling. The economy contracting. Freedom of speech. We are under threat from some of this legislation that is coming in. The way Mark Carney has been dealing with not getting a majority, trying to manufacture one, not through democratic means. It's very eerie to hear all of this stuff that Desiree Fixler said would happen. It's already happened within the first year of Mark Carney being around. Very smart lady, lovely lady to talk to, let me tell you. And I have a lot of respect for her. But this is what Canada elected, and she warned us. Unfortunately, not enough people saw her warning, and too many people were watching the mainstream media. But that's just fine, because the mainstream media is now talking about this recession. They're also talking about this. Investing in tomorrow, a future without poverty. So this is from an article that was actually published back in February. And it had said, Campaign 2000 has released the 2025 report card on child and family poverty in Canada, drawing on the latest national data to examine the state of child and family poverty across the country. More than 2 decades after Canada pledged to eliminate child poverty, progress is moving in the wrong direction. Child poverty rose for the 3rd consecutive year. That's the 3rd consecutive year under the Liberals, with nearly 30,000 additional children falling into poverty. Today, 802,000 children, 10.7%, live in poverty using Canada's official measure. and nearly 1.4 million children live in poverty using a broader income measure. At the current pace, it would take almost 400 years to end child poverty in Canada. Poverty is rising and deepening. As housing and food costs increase, families are falling further behind. On average, families with children are living more than $15,000 below the poverty line. Below! And 1.2 million adults are working but are still unable to meet basic needs. Government supports remain critical but are no longer keeping pace with the cost of living. The Canada Child Benefit prevented more than 580,000 children from falling into poverty in 2023, yet its impact has weakened over time. Food insecurity is also worsening, with 2.5 million children living in food insecure households across the provinces, and severe food insecurity doubling since 2019. Food Bank Canada gave Canada basically a failing grade on food banks in Canada. It's in food insecurity. This is Mark Carney. This is what some of these folks elected. And maybe this is the reason. Right here. I'm willing to bet this is the reason that Mark Carney doesn't really want to talk about this recession, doesn't want to talk about food insecurity, and doesn't want to talk about the report that Food Bank Canada put out today. Right here.
Canadians are getting ahead. Affordability is the best it's been in over a decade.
Affordability is the best it's been in a decade. Yeah. Remember that comment? Pretty sure this is the reason that Mark Carney doesn't really want to show his face right now. Because as much as he may want everyone to believe it, it's a little bit harder to convince people that their affordability has been the best it's been for over a decade when they go to withdraw money and it says insufficient funds. When they go to pay for their groceries and it says card declined. Go put something back on the shelf. It's a little bit hard to believe when you see another bill come through the mail that says past due. This is what too many Canadians are living with in Mark Carney's Canada. So they can use all the propaganda they want. And they can say what they want as much as they want on CBC and mainstream media. But sooner or later, Canadians are going to be looking what's in their bank account, and they're going to be looking at the type of mail that they're getting and the phone calls from the debt collectors. Then they're going to look back up at what Mark Carney and Liberals are saying, and they're going to understand that what they're saying doesn't really match up with reality anymore. And maybe now maybe I should reconsider who I would vote for in the next election.